Okay, so this evening we'll go over chapter 9, the project associated with it. And just to kind of get started here, I'll go out and lay out per se what our tasks were for this chapter project. So looks like we're going to create a class, our own custom one, and essentially what we're going to look to do is create an ATM machine. So our task, we want to create a class with three methods. Method one will be our initiator. Method two will be a deposit method. We'll take an amount. The amount will be added to the current balance. The current balance should then print after the deposit. We'll do the same thing with withdrawal, except we'll actually take the money out and show what that amount is afterwards. So let's go ahead and get started with this. And for us to do so, one of the first things we'll do is we'll go ahead and set the stage. And what I mean set the stage is I'll go ahead and start off with my double underscore name equals double underscore main, because I know that's what's going to need to be at the bottom of my code. And if that is indeed true, I want it to kick off my main function. Now we're going to utilize main because, well, main is a socially accepted way of starting off our code. So we'll have at the bottom of our code if name equals main, and if so, we'll kick off main, and main is going to be the main function of our code. So that function will contain the bulk of the work. So here I'm going to start off by declaring bal, which is going to be essentially my balance, and I'm going to take whatever that is and we'll convert it to a float. So I'll say bal is going to be 500. I'll then come in and I'll start creating a little menu because I'm trying to get some bootleg extra points here, if you will. And at this point, this is just for visibility of sorts, all right? Just to make it more visually appealing to whoever's running my code. I'll also come in here and I'll start building my menu or information that will be shown within my menu. And one of the things I'll do is actually show or return to the user what the balance is before they even get started. So I'll have a string called current balance. I'll also add to that whatever bal is. And since I'm taking bal as a float, I'll need to be able to come in here and convert that back to a string for visibility perspective. And then I want to come in here and I want to do a new line afterwards. All right. So cool. That's just going to return what the current balance is. And here I get a little bit more into building my menu. So I'll say, hey, if you do option 1, well, you want to deposit. If you do option 2, well, you want to make a withdrawal. All right. I'll also come in here and do a new line again, just so I create a little bit space between my next part. And here I'll tell them to input an option, and cool. Now that's going to be my menu for the most part, but I need to sum that up, right? Because I'm going to be asking for some input from a user. And that input that I'm asking for is going to be essentially what option do they select. All right, so I don't care about a question per se because my question is going to be up here when I'm telling them to input something. Okay, so from here, I'm going to, what are you telling me? All right, continue on. I don't know what it's telling me at the moment. All right, so then I'm going to roll straight into a comparison, my if statement. And I'll say, hey, if it equals 1, then do something. And as you recall, pass is just a placeholder, right? And I'll come back to that. I just need to get past it. Now, if ans equals 2, then do this, right? And I'll pass again. And then I'll say, hey, if it doesn't equal 1 or 2, well, then I wanted to do this. And that very thing I wanted to do is, well, I want to inform the user that they've messed up, right? And I'm going to say, please enter either 1 or 2, right? And then I'll sum that up, if I can spell this right. And then guess what? I want to kick them right back into my main function. Okay, so from here, I now want to come back and let's say address my actually no, let's come up. Let's go ahead and create our class now. We'll come back to that thing that we just skipped over. So I'm going to create a class. I'm going to call this class Nando Bank. And in here, I'm going to create a method called init, right? So at this point, because you all have done this, you've probably been looking at this init, and this is essentially an initializer, also known as a constructor. So this will be the first thing that I'm going to have in my class, and it's going to set the stage for items that I'm going to declare within my class. All right. So within here, I'll have self, because when I have that instantiation where I'm using Nando Bank, the very first thing that I'm going to pass is that object itself. So I'll always have self. I'm also going to pass it what I'm going to call balance. I'll pass it what I'll call money in. And if they don't give me a variable, I'm sorry, a value to go with it, by default, I want it to have 0. So if they give me a value of, let's say, 500 for money in, well, 500 gets declared for money in. But if they don't give me a value for money in, then it's just going to declare money in as 0. And then I'm going to take money out, and I'm going to declare that as 0 as well. Now, once I do that, we'll come down, and here's where I'm going to actually take the items that are being supplied within my initiator and actually declare them as something else that are usable within my, my object itself. In this case, I'm going to declare deposit amount is what I'm calling money in within my code. I'm sorry, within my object. So in my code at large, money in is the amount that's being declared. Within my class, money in is being known as deposit amount. Now, these are two different things, and that's why I separate what they're being called. And if I didn't want to do that, well, I don't have to, right? And we'll change that in a minute. Actually, let's go ahead and do that now. So for example, within my class, I'm going to call balance, right? This is being supplied. I'm going to take it and then store it as self-balance, i.e. the object's balance itself. Now, I also need to do one for withdraw, so I'll do withdraw amount, and we'll call that one money out. So we're doing our mapping. Okay, cool. So I have my initiator. Now I'll come in and I'm just going to put an exclamation there, right? So that way I know I did it. Let's see here. Method 2. We're going to create one called deposit. So I'll do deposit, and when I'm doing methods, I always need to start off with self, again, because that's going to be the object itself. And then what else am I going to supply with it? Well, I'm going to supply something. In this case, it will be withdraw amount, right? Cool. And then I'm going to also supply balance. All right. I'll do a pass there because I'll come back. I'll do this one with, I'm going to call withdraw self again. deposit amount, withdraw amount, balance, and I'll do pass. Okay, so now I've laid the groundwork for the shell of my object and everything else. I still have this. What does this want? Yeah. Sometimes this is good in VS Code because it tries to help you. In this case, this warning is getting on my nerves. Okay, all right. So now that I have my object, I have my three functions, if you will. Now I need to do something, I'm sorry, with the methods, I now need to do something with them. So I'm going to say, hey, when this gets called upon, I want to print out something like deposit made, right? Just informing the user. And then what I also want to do is I want to declare a variable called new bal, and I want to do deposit amount plus whatever that balance is. And it would be helpful if I spelled that right. All right, whatever that balance is. Now, from there, I want to be able to inform the user of what happened, right? I want to say, hey, new balance, and I want to give them what that amount is. So the new balance is going to be, bam. So I'm going to supply a deposit amount and a balance. I'm going to print out deposit made. I'm going to take deposit amount, add it to balance, store it as new bal, and then I'm going to print out new balance and then whatever that new balance is. Okay, that's easy enough. So I'll come down to my withdraw one, and I'm going to do something nearly the same. Or I'm going to say withdraw made dot dot dot. I'll do new bal again, and this time I'm going to say withdraw amount. Right, we'll say balance minus withdraw amount, store it as new bal. We'll then print new balance. Bam. And this is no different than kind of what we just did up above. We'll convert the new bal to a string of sorts, and we're good to go. Now, what happens when a user tries to withdraw an amount that they don't have enough money for, right? This is essentially still going to do it and put them in the negative. We don't want that to happen. So I'm going to do a little if statement here, and here we'll be doing, hey, if withdraw is less than or equal to balance, then go ahead and print out balance, withdrawal made, go ahead and subtract the balance from the amount, and then go ahead and return what that balance is. Else, I want to say, hey, sorry, you don't have enough money for this transaction. And then maybe we'll put a sad face or something, right? Just to make them feel good. Okay, so awesome. So now I got my class, I got my initiator, I got my method of deposit, method of withdraw, and I'm good to go. So now I'll come back down here and we'll look to now do a little bit more with our check here. So before we just had a pass statement so we can set it and keep going. Now I need to actually do something with it. So I'll ask the person, all right, for an amount that they want to, what is one? An amount that they want to deposit. So enter the amount you want to deposit. Bam. And then the next thing we'll do is I have to start an instantiation of my object. In this case, I'm going to call my instantiation transaction. I'll do Nando Bank, and what I'm going to supply to Nando Bank is money in, and then I'll also supply what I call a balance. So let's put balance. There. All right, cool. So the very first thing is going to be self. The next thing is going to be balance. The next thing is going to be money in. And then I'm not going to have to worry about money out because I gave it a default value of 0 if it's not supplied. Okay, so now with my instantiation of my object declared, I can actually call upon and use the methods within there. So deposit. Cool. Well, what does deposit require? Deposit requires self. We don't have to worry about that because that's the instantiation itself. It requires a parameter of deposit name and balance. So I need to feed it 2 things. All right, awesome. What I'll feed it is money out, or I'm sorry, money in, and then I'll also feed it bow. All right, that's all I needed to be bow here. So money in and bow. Okay, awesome. We'll come down and we'll do the same thing nearly here. This time it's going to be money out. This is also going to be a float. It's also going to ask the question, and the question or the thing that it wants it to do, enter the amount you want to withdraw. And from here, we'll do instantiation, kind of like what we did before. Instantiation of the object Nando Bank. We'll do bow. This time we're going to do money out. All right, and then from there, we can now call upon our instantiation with our method, and then our method requires 2 parameters as well, because we're not going to count self. So 2 more that we need to supply it. So what am I going to give it? I'm going to give it money out and then bow. So if you notice how I have it as money out and bow, well, that's because money out's here, bow is there. But once we supply it, whatever's in that position now becomes withdrawal amount. And then whatever's in that position also now becomes balance. Okay, awesome. So I think we have everything. Let's go ahead and run it. And a lance is not defined. No, I had it highlighted. All right. What does it not like here? 34. Okay, so I'm missing a parentheses here. All right, so now that I got that in there, I run it and I get my menu that I created. We have a current balance of 500 that's coming from here that gets evaluated and put there. We have a new line here and there, and then we have our menu. So I'm going to go ahead and put in option, actually, I'll put in option 3, right? So notice how it keeps bringing me back to my menu because I'm not putting in option 1 or 2. So I'll put in 1, and now it says, hey, how much do you want to deposit? Well, I want to deposit $670, and I'll say $670. And now it tells me my new balance is $1170. I'll run it again, and this time I'll do option 2. Well, how much? Well, first I need to spell want, right? Right, so bam, cool. So how much do you want to deposit? Well, I want to deposit $200, or I'm sorry, withdraw $200. So now my balance, which was 500, is now 300. Okay, so let's run this again. Now this time I want to withdraw 760, and then it says, sorry, you don't have enough money for this transaction. Okay, so now that's it. That's literally all we had to do. Let's go in here and check this off. We got a method for that. We got a method that when we pass it money, it prints it after it does something with it. We got a method for that, method for that, method for that. And now this whole thing is complete. So we went through having our check for name equals main for our script. We had a main function that then allowed for some options to be selected. We had a declaration of a class that had an initiator. And within our class, we had two other methods. We then had an instantiation of our class being declared, and we were able to dial into each one of the methods within our class. I think that wraps everything up. All right, now, if you have questions, please reach out and let me know, and let me see how we can help you. Thanks.